Hello everybody, I'm Mond and this is going to be my tutorial on Marvelous Designer and how to create your own clothing assets from scratch. This is the first part of a course that I have planned on how to get your own stuff from scratch and hopefully get into game. This follows the Marvelous Designer to ZBrush workflow, and then we topo UV to model to Substance Painter, and then rigging into game. But I'm not confident on weight painting, so maybe I will pass that to someone else and see if anyone wants to teach that in my stead so that the course will be complete. Okay, so I'm using Marvelous Designer 10, but if you're using 12 or 11, it might be a bit different. But this is your general interface. The first thing you're gonna do is go to File and import. You can either import OBJ or add avatar. Honestly, I think I've used both before and it doesn't really have a difference, but you can import the avatar just to be safe. And I'm going to import the avatar that I have made. It is in the Google Drive that I have made, which contains the class notes and the live demo. Not really, quote unquote live demo that I did with the class, but yes, you can download it and use it for yourself. Oh gosh, this is gonna be hard because you can't see my pop-up, but I'm gonna tell you right now that if you're using the avatar that you've downloaded from my Google Drive, you need to import it in centimeters, cm, and put the scale to 200%. This gives you better simulations. Just trust me. But if you're using your own avatar and you've exported it from text tools, put it into Blender, and export it from Blender into Marvelous Designer, I think that you need to import it in meters, but I'm not sure. I don't use Blender for now. So yes, I'm going to import my avatar, and this is it. I'm using the TBS eSlim and the normal legs. Just cut out the PP hole and patched it so that it's easier to make stuff like pants and everything. So this is your 3D interface, and this side is your 2D interface. You can edit your camera controls by going to settings, user settings, and view controls, and you can just put it to whatever makes you comfortable. I don't think you can see any pop-up windows because of how this program is recording, but just remember that it's in settings, user settings, and view controls. Okay, so I'm going to start by introducing the tools that we are going to use. First of all, there's this tool called Polygon, and the shortcut is H. So if you click on H, it's going to automatically select the Polygon tool for you. For Marvelous Designer 10, if you hold on the icons, you can select sort of subtools. They are related to the tool, but it's different versions. So for polygon, there's also rectangle, and there's also ellipse. The use of ellipse is to make circle skirts and stuff like that. Well, rectangle is, as it's to make rectangles. For me, some people prefer to make a rectangle and edit it, but for me, I prefer to just make it a polygon and edit it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna draw the points, which are going to be the corners of my polygon, and I'm going to make a basic shirt. So from here, this is gonna be the neckline, this is where it drapes off the shoulder, here is where the arm will be, and here is where it will end. And then I'm gonna make this a 90-degree angle, and this is going to be my shirt, or at least one side of the shirt. And I'm going over to this icon over here. It should be edit pattern by default, which will let you edit the points that you've placed. Let's say that I don't want this to be so long, I can select the line and decrease the length, or I can, select the point and move it closer or move it further, and so on and so forth. Holding on to edit pattern icon, I'm going to select edit curve point, and this allows me to create a curve point and curve the neckline like this. And I'm also going to curve where the armholes will be, like so it looks more like a shirt pattern. And since we only have one side, I'm going to select it, right click on the 2D interface and symmetric pattern, and this will give me an exact copy. And again, what I'm going to do is select the two patterns that I've already made and create an instance pattern, not instance pattern. Yep, create an instance pattern. And then right clicking on the 3D menu, I am going to flip the normals and bring it to the back of the model. And so now I have the front and the back of my shirt. And so I still have to sew everything together. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to grab this tool right here. It is called segment sewing. And what this does is it sews the entire area, one line to another line. So if I select this line, and this line is going to sew these two together, as evident by like these lines that go down and these two lines right here. You can notice that there is a short line in like cutting across the long line, and this shows you the orientation of your sewing. So I'm going to backspace and get rid of that. So let's say that my line is here, and when I sew it to another piece of fabric, the line is in the opposite area. And what this does is it gives me like a wrong result. Like this is not what we want, because it's gonna twist the garment, and it's basically going to like flip it over. So you should make sure that the two lines line up when you're sewing something like this to make it neat and tidy. And you can also sew using the 3D window by selecting just like normal. It makes it way easier for you to see where you're sewing. So yes, I'm going to sew everything together, and then I'm going to press spacebar to simulate. That's the shortcut. You can also press this arrow right here, but it's good to at least remember this shortcut, because you're gonna be using the simulation button a lot. Spacebar, simulate, and there we have. I forgot to sew the back, so I'm gonna do that right now. And there we have our singlet, a very basic singlet. And so we're going to make sleeves from this, and what I usually do is I create a polygon, just like taking the curve of the hole as a reference, and just like, I like to call it brute forcing, but honestly, if you're like having trouble with like making it fit properly, you can look at references, like sewing drafting references, and I think it will give you like a way better fit, because honestly this is probably like not how you do it in real life. So yes, and I am going to use the edit pattern just to like wiggle it around and make it look good, and then again select symmetric pattern, and then select these two and instance pattern. I'm going to make my 2D interface neater by sort of like placing these like this, and then in the 3D window I'm going to select the two fabric pieces and flip normal and just move them to the back of the arms like so. And again, I'm going to sew everything together. Simulate, and I'm going to just move this in a bit so it has a better time. If there's more than one way of sort of like fixing the problem that we had with the simulation, but honestly I'll just move the 2D pieces closer to the arm so that it has a better time doing it. So yes, that is our very basic shirt. And there's a bit of a fitting error here because the patterns is not like, it's not like the best. I'm really forcing it. But I'm going to try to just like edit it a bit and see if it helps. So yeah, good enough. This kind of things can be fixed easily in ZBrush, but if you're going to export from Marvelous Designer and straight going to texturing and weighting, then you probably have to be more exact on the pattern drafting that you do. And I would really recommend at least, practice making this shirt a few times, because once you make a basic shirt, you can basically make anything out of this. Like, at least every top, you probably have to practice making pants to do pants. So yeah. And let's say that I want to make this into a jacket. I'm going to use this select sewing tool, and I'm going to select on this sewing part and delete it, and then this is going to open up, and that's like a very basic jacket. And maybe I want like a band over here, like a jacket band, and I want it to like roll up, so I'm gonna make like roll up sleeves, right? What I do usually to get that kind of stuff is I select the end of the wrist area, and I right click on the 2D interface and select offset as internal line. And what I gonna do is just estimate how long I want it to be and just click OK. And then I'm going to right click on the new line that I've just made, this internal line, and I'm going to click on cut and sew. And what this does is cut and sew everything together. Gonna do it for the back part as well. And I will need to link these two together. Okay. And so what I'm gonna do right now is, oops, link these two together, and then I am going to make these the sleeves way bigger. Make these okay. I'm gonna make these sleeves longer. Let it simulate and just drag the bend up. And so now I have this sort of folded, rolled up sleeves here. I'm gonna do the same thing for this side, just drag it up. Pull it out so that it doesn't clip through the arm. And there you go. I'm also going to make the blouse armholes a bit lower so that it gives me more space and it fits the sleeves better. So yes. And then right now the sleeves are really crunchy, so what we're gonna do is go to this icon, I think it's called select patterns, and just select everything, and I'm gonna put it to particle distance 10. You can set it between 10 to 15. It really depends on how much your computer can handle. So yes, I'm going to set it to 10, and you can see that it simulates way better because it has more polygons. And another thing I want to do is, I don't want the folds to be so, what do you call it, so thin. Like the material looks very thin, so it crumples up easily. I'm going to set the add thickness collision to 4. And it doesn't really give much of a difference right now, but it will. I'm just gonna move it around a bit and let it. It's sort of, this add thickness collision is sort of like faking the thickness of the fabric, which gives you thicker folds. And another thing I'm gonna do is I'm going to select the fabric right here on the right hand side, and this will let me edit my fabric properties. I'm going to go to presets and I'm going to select something thicker like leather lamb skin. You can see that that gives me a very much thicker and stiffer material. So yes, I am going to still play around and just like move the folds to hopefully get something I like. Okay, that looks pretty good. I have my roll up sleeves. I'm going to play around with it on the back too. And just like tug it around. And that looks pretty good. Consistent. Rolled up sleeves. And I feel like I want the sleeves to be still less form fitting, so I am going to increase the length, the width. Some more. Not that way. So this gives me a looser jacket. And again, I'm going to play around with this. One thing I can do to help is select on these armbands. Right click in the 3D window and select strengthen. This makes the armband a stiffer material, but it won't. This is not like a very favorable solution if you're going to be doing your texturing in Marvelous Designer, because like you have this orange fabric now, and I don't think there's any way to get rid of the color other than unstrengthening. So this is more of like if you're going to export it and like bring it into Substance Painter or whatever instead, you can use this method. Going to do the same for this side. Strengthen it, and then I'm going to pull it out a bit and let it ease so that this part will stop clipping with itself. And that seems okay. So yes, as you can see from a basic shirt pattern, I have made this jacket with rolled up sleeves, and I can edit this even more. Like let's say that I want to add a color over here, I can create that. I usually use the same sort of like a similar method to how I made the sleeves, where I select the polygon and I just like kinda, as I like to say, brute force my way by like creating this like random polygon I'm just making it fit. Just like, you know, trying to make sure that the curvature kind of sort of matches out. And then I'm going to make this curve as well. And edit pattern, I'm going to push this up and make it this way. Also going to make the curve less, and I'm going to sew it on and see how it looks. It's pretty okay. You should always draft out sort of the basic fit before you start messing around with how it looks. So like, okay, I'm going to copy the unsymmetric pattern onto the other side first, and I'm going to sew it on using the segment sewing tool. And you can see, oh no, now it's it has sort of like put itself at the below the blouse and it's making a big fuzz. Okay, so what we can do to fix this is we can select it and put it to layer 1 under simulation properties, and this basically puts it above the jacket, which is layer 0, and it will have a better time sort of like, you know, like finishing itself. And there we go, we have the front of the blouse. You can just like wait for it to settle down. It seems to be a bit like, you know, it'll be like that sometimes. But yeah, just be patient, honestly. Especially if you're working with a higher particle distance, you just have to be patient and let your patterns sort of just settle down. Okay, so I have my front part of my collar. I'm going to just do what I did for the blouse again and just select these two and instance pattern, and this will be the draft of my back collar. Again, I'm going to set it to layer 1 so it has a better time, and I'm also going to, well, since it's already this way, I'm just going to flip it around and push it down. And sew the segments together. And what I like to do if this is going to fly all the way to the jacket, is gonna make the jacket sort of collide and move around. So what I like to do is select the jacket pieces and just right click, freeze. The shortcut is also Ctrl K, so you can click on those two and press Ctrl K, so just and this will make sure that the jacket doesn't collide and just make a mess. And again, I'm going to wait for it to sit down nicely and just lay down. Okay, and I'm going to sew the color together so that it stays as one piece instead of being cut into four. And of course, I'm going to edit this later to look more like a color, but for now just sew it together. Well, okay, so now we have our very basic color. Oh, this is something. I'm just gonna look around. This seems to be too long and stuff, so first of all I'm going to bring this select these two and remove linked editing, and I'm going to put it as symmetric. Link these two together so that these pieces will edit separately from these two pieces. And then I'm going to select this point, bring it in a bit, and I'm just going to kind of make this you could probably make a better color if you had a pattern draft with you, but I'm just gonna brute force my way through. So yeah, I guess it might be too short now. Okay, so this is my very basic color. The back sucks, but if I have a lot of trouble with something, as I said, I just look at pattern drafting references. Okay, good enough for now. So I have this nice jacket with this nice fucked up collar, and my back looks a bit tight. I'm going to unfreeze it. And then I'm going to remove link editing and apply it again symmetric pattern so that these two, the back pieces, will be edited separately from the front pieces. Just move this color up here so it doesn't overlap. And then with these back pieces, I'm going to increase the length over here. To give it a bit more space. I don't worry too much about the measurements being very exact, since as long as it looks okay, you'll be fine. Like we're not going to like make this in real life. It doesn't really matter. So just like, as long as it looks okay, it's fine. You can go out. I think one thing that people would like to know is how to create frills. So what I usually do with that is I use the rectangle tool, and I'm going to create a rectangle. Let's see that I want frills on this armband right here, just to give it a bit of like a cute look. And what I'm gonna do is just create a rectangle that is at least 2 times longer than the pattern that you want it to sew to. This is only the front part of the pattern, so it doesn't have to be this long. It really depends on like how many frills you want it to be, how dramatic you want your frills to be. But I will just sew it. And there you have it. These really cute frills. I'm just going to demo it on one side, so what I'm gonna do is just create an instance pattern, put it down, and instead of flipping normal, I'm just going to rotate it a bit so that it faces the correct way, because it's already like simulated this way. I'm gonna sew everything. And again, make sure that your lines, these sewing lines, are straight, or you're going to have simulation problems. And this is my frill piece. You can see it's very crunchy right now, so same as what we did for the jacket, I'm going to select the two of them and particle distance 10. And you can see that improves it so much. And I think that I would like my frills to be more lightweight and less stiff, so I'm going to create a new fabric on the right hand side. Just click on the add button, and I'm going to put my preset to silk chiffon. Select the two frill pieces and go down to fabric and put it to fabric 2 and just simulate. You can see that it's silk is a way lighter material. I'm going to add thickness collision to 5 to just make it more spaced out and more dramatic. So like it gives you this more, let you see, a bigger curves. So yes.